misery.
1960s R&B wasn't just the radio hits. It was a whole universe of soulful masterpieces hiding just beneath the charts. Albums that slipped through the cracks but shaped the sound forever. These are 10 underrated 60s R&B albums that deserved far more love and still shine today. Number 10, Soul Serenade by King Curtis, the sax master's overlooked jewel.
It's called Soul Serenade.
Released in 1964 under Capitol Records, this smooth, horn-soaked album arrived at a moment when R&B singers dominated the spotlight, leaving instrumentalists like King Curtis often under-recognized. Curtis was already a veteran session player, backing everyone from the Coasters to Aretha Franklin. But Soul Serenade was his attempt to carve out a space where the saxophone spoke like a voice. Behind the scenes, the title track almost didn't make the record. Curtis reportedly recut it multiple times, chasing that perfect blend of warmth and melancholy. The final version drifts like a slow breeze through an open window on a summer night, the kind that makes you close your eyes and remember someone you shouldn't be remembering. Vintage club goers swear you could hear this track pouring out of Harlem lounges long after closing time, the bartenders cleaning up while the last couple swayed in the dark. Though it never became a chart monster, the album's influence ran deep. Later, soul and jazz fusion players borrowed Curtis's phrasing, and the title track found new life through countless samples and covers. It's the kind of album that reminds you R&B isn't just sung, it's felt, breathed through brass and blue-hued melodies. And if that was the sound of late-night longing, this next album moves with pure downtown swagger. Number 9, Doing the Butterfly by Doris Troy, the powerhouse voice hidden behind one big hit.
Just to be near me, got the deepest sea.
Released in 1969 on Capitol Records, this album arrived after Doris Troy had already carved her name into soul history with her classic Just One Look. But while that single became a standard, the album Doing the Butterfly never got the light it deserved. Troy was in a transitional moment, moving between gospel, soul, and early funk influences, and the industry didn't quite know how to package a singer with that much range and raw fire. What makes the album special is the grit behind its creation. During recording, Troy insisted on arranging her own vocals, a rarity for women in the studio at the time. There's a legend among session players that she once demanded an entire choir-style harmony part be recut because it didn't sound like Sunday morning. Her ear was undeniable. Drop the needle and you're transported to a vibrant late 60s New York soundscape. Bustling sidewalks, neon signs, steam rising from subway grates, and that unmistakable mix of gospel yearning and uptown R&B swagger drifting from club doors. You can almost feel the warmth of the wooden studio floors where she stood, hands raised, pushing her voice into the rafters. While it didn't chart high, Doing the Butterfly planted seeds. Later singers, from 70s soul belters to modern neo-soul artists, cite Troy's phrasing and fearlessness as foundational. And once you hear the album all the way through, you understand why. It's a time capsule of soul liberation. If that album was a burst of gospel-tinted energy, this next one slides into a deeper, smokier groove that defines Quiet Storm before there was Quiet Storm. Number 8. Here's Barbara Lynn by Barbara Lynn, the left-handed guitar queen's quiet masterpiece.
Oh yeah, do the good thing.
Dropped in 1968 on Tribe Records, this album came at a strange moment in soul music. Psychedelia was rising, Motown was evolving, and radio programmers didn't quite know where to place a young black woman who not only sang her own songs, but played left-handed lead guitar like a total powerhouse. Barbara Lynn was already known for her earlier hit, You'll Lose a Good Thing. But here's Barbara Lynn was her most complete artistic statement. A record overflowing with heartache, groove, and personal storytelling. Behind the scenes, there's a story musicians still whisper about.
That record hit the
Lynn walked into a Los Angeles session and stunned the studio band by casually flipping the guitar upside down, restringed for her left hand. She proceeded to outplay half the room. Those sessions birthed tracks that pulse with understated brilliance. Soft, smoky vocals riding atop crisp guitar lines that feel like conversations between old lovers. Spin this album, and you're suddenly in a dim Gulf Coast club in the late 60s. Ceiling fans turning slowly overhead, dancers leaning into each other, the smell of barbecue drifting in from outside, and Lynn's guitar slicing gently through the humid night. It's intimate, in a way only truly lived-in soul can be. Though overlooked at release, the album later became a blueprint for artists blending vulnerability with instrumental finesse. You hear echoes of Barbara Lynn's style in everyone from Shuggie Otis to contemporary indie soul singers reclaiming softness as strength. If this one wrapped you in a warm coastal haze, the next album takes us right into the heart of Memphis grit, where horns shout, drums stomp, and soul gets downright raw. Number 7, The Soul of Ike and Tina Turner by Ike and Tina Turner. The explosive early spark everyone slept on.
Be right. I love you much too much. It's jealousy, I guess.
Released in 1961 on Sue Records, this album arrived before Ike and Tina Turner became full-blown household names. The world knew Tina's voice was powerful, but this record showed the raw electricity before the polish, the kind of intensity that could rattle juke joints and make even seasoned musicians stop in their tracks. It dropped during a time when R&B was shifting from smooth vocal groups to grittier, more urgent expressions. And this album sat right at that turning point.
I guess you think you still love me, but I love it.
A favorite behind-the-scenes story involves Tina stepping into the studio and delivering a take so fiery that the engineer reportedly stopped the tape, looked through the glass and said, "Lord, are you trying to blow these speakers?" The band was tight, the arrangements lean, and Tina's voice quivered with a hunger that hadn't yet been framed for mainstream audiences. Listening today feels like walking into a packed club on a Saturday night, sweat on the walls, the floor shaking beneath your feet, horn players in sharp suits blasting like they're battling for the ceiling, and Tina up front, commanding every inch of the room. It's the sound of a star igniting in real time.
I guess I'm jealous and can't help it, but I love you.
While the album didn't grab massive commercial traction, it quietly influenced the rise of more aggressive, emotionally forward soul, and inspired countless frontwomen who saw in Tina a template for fearless performance. If that was pure, unfiltered fire, this next record cools things down with velvet textures and slow burn elegance. An album perfect for late nights and lonely hearts. Number 6, Feeling Good by Walter Jackson, the velvet-voiced balladeer who deserved far more shine. Released in 1966 on OK Records, this album found Walter Jackson at a fascinating crossroads. He had the voice of a classic crooner, smooth, elegant, heartbreak ready, but wrapped inside the rising Chicago soul sound. Critics adored him, yet commercial radio never quite knew where to place a baritone this rich in an era leaning toward upbeat Motown grooves. Still, Feeling Good became his quiet masterpiece. There's a story from the sessions where producer Carl Davis insisted on nearly orchestral arrangements, wanting Jackson to sound like Nat King Cole raised on South Side Soul. Studio players recalled how Jackson, seated due to a childhood disability, would close his eyes, tilt his head back, and release these long, trembling notes that made the entire room go still. Play the album now, and you can picture yourself in a late-night Chicago lounge. Dim lights, clinking glasses, couples leaning close, and Jackson's voice floating like velvet smoke over the room. His phrasing is tender, careful, full of emotional precision. Though it never charted big, Feeling Good became a favorite among collectors and vocalists who studied Jackson's control and purity. You hear his influence today in singers who merge classic romanticism with soul's emotional honesty. And if this slow burn elegance moved you, trust me, the next 5 albums carry even deeper surprises. If these forgotten gems from the 60s are bringing back memories, give this video a thumbs up. It helps keep the soul alive. And stay tuned. We've still got 5 more underrated classics to uncover. Number 5, Sweet Soul by Arthur Conley. The album overshadowed by one massive hit. Released in 1968 on Atco Records, Sweet Soul should have cemented Arthur Conley as one of the decade's most expressive voices. But because Sweet Soul music exploded into a global smash, the album carrying it was often brushed aside as just a vehicle for the single. In truth, Conley was emerging from Otis Redding's mentorship, stepping into his own artistry with a blend of southern grit and youthful charm that deserved far more recognition. One studio tale from these sessions still circulates. Conley, trying to shake the pressure of following his hit, supposedly rewrote the vocal melody on one track in the booth, humming a new line on the spot while the band waited. The engineer kept the tape rolling, and that improvised vocal ended up on the final record. It captures Conley's vulnerability, hopeful, slightly anxious, but burning with belief. Spin Sweet Soul today, and it's like wandering through a 1968 Southern block party. Neighbors on porches, kids dancing barefoot in the street, barbecue smoke drifting through the warm air, and Conley's voice echoing from someone's record player as the sun dips low. There's joy, heartache, and a sweetness that lives up to the album's name. While it didn't become a chart-topping LP, the album influenced early 70s deep soul singers who studied Conley's ability to mix innocence with fire. And you hear that same earnest spirit in many modern retro soul artists carving space in today's scene. If this album was a joyous neighborhood celebration, the next record takes us into the polished halls of early Motown, where a young group crafted harmonies that deserved way more love. Number 4, Sugar Shack by The Miracles, the Motown gem that slipped through the cracks.
I'm just as sure as the wind's gonna blow now.
Released in 1962 on Tamla, a Motown imprint, Sugar Shack arrived during a period when Smokey Robinson and The Miracles were everywhere. Their singles were climbing charts, their live shows were packed, and Smokey was simultaneously writing for half the Motown roster. But in all that momentum, this early album, full of tender harmonies and sophisticated songwriting, never earned the spotlight it deserved.
Say I do now, I'll make sure she's in love with you.
Motown insiders say these sessions were some of the fastest Smokey ever arranged. Between writing hits for Mary Wells and The Temptations, he'd reportedly scribble lyrical ideas on scraps of paper between takes. One legendary story claims Smokey improvised an entire harmony arrangement on the studio floor, humming each part to the group one by one until the room shimmered with layered sweetness. Listening today places you in a warm Detroit evening, streetlights flickering on, young couples strolling hand in hand past corner stores, and that unmistakable Miracles blend drifting from a transistor radio. Smokey's voice glides like a soft breeze, the harmonies wrapping around him like velvet. It's romance, yearning, and youthful optimism all living in the grooves. Despite missing major chart success, Sugar Shack became a quiet blueprint for later Motown albums centered on lush harmonies and emotional storytelling. Modern soul groups still study its arrangements, and collectors consider it one of the label's overlooked treasures. If that was Motown elegance in its purest form, this next album takes us down to the Deep South for a sound rougher, earthier, and overflowing with raw heart. Number 3. The Turning Point by Joe Simon. Southern soul sophistication that never got its due. Released in 1969 on Soundstage 7, The Turning Point marked a major moment for Joe Simon, right on the edge of breaking through, but still carving out his lane between Nashville smoothness and deep Southern grit. At a time when soul music was splitting into polished uptown styles and raw regional sounds, Simon managed to blend both, creating an album full of emotional weight and undeniable groove. Yet, somehow, it never reached the wider audience it deserved. During the sessions, producers told a story about Simon insisting on live strings despite the modest studio budget.
I've been left to wonder how it went.
When they tried to talk him out of it, he stood firm. If we're telling real stories, we need real emotion behind them. They booked a small string section and the result was magic. Lush, cinematic layers, lifting his voice into something timeless. Put the album on today, and you're instantly transported to a late 60s Southern night. Cicadas humming outside, the warm glow of a porch light, and that slow, steady Nashville soul rhythm wrapping around you like a familiar embrace. Simon's voice carries heartbreak, hope, and a quiet determination that feels deeply human. Though the album didn't dominate the charts, it influenced later vocalists who blended country-tinged storytelling with R&B phrasing. You can hear echoes of Joe Simon's delivery in everything from 70s soul ballads to modern Americana soul crossovers. If that was Southern soul painted with elegance, the next album turns to a more urban, horn-punched, gospel-rooted heat, an absolute firestorm that should have been a giant. Number 2, Barbara and the Browns by Barbara Brown and the Browns. Memphis deep soul at its most intimate. Released in the mid to late 60s through various singles that were later compiled, this body of work represents one of the most criminally overlooked chapters in Memphis soul. Barbara Brown recorded for the Sounds of Memphis label, a smaller operation working in the shadow of giants like Stax. While the label lacked the promotional muscle to push her music nationwide, the quality of these recordings is staggering. Raw church-born emotion wrapped in moody, horn-drenched arrangements. Studio musicians recalled how Barbara would step into the booth with her eyes closed, clutching the headphones like she was holding on to a memory she wasn't ready to let go of. Her voice wasn't flashy. It was aching, tender, deeply lived in. One engineer claimed she delivered one of her best vocal takes right after breaking down in tears from the weight of the lyric. They kept the tape rolling. That's the kind of truth you can't manufacture. Play these tracks now, and you're pulled straight into a Memphis night. Worn wooden floors beneath your feet, a single lamp, it glowing in a small living room, the scent of soul food lingering in the air. Barbara's voice stretches like a whispered confession across the room, and every horn line feels like a sigh from someone who's loved and lost. Though her work never charted heavily, collectors and deep soul devotees consider these recordings sacred. Modern Southern soul singers still draw from her quiet intensity, her emotional honesty, and the way she turned vulnerability into power. If this one laid your heart bare, trust me, Our number one pick is the kind of soul statement that can stop time. Nothing prepares you for how deep it reaches. Number 1, 2 Steps from the Blues by Bobby Blue Bland. The overlooked masterpiece that defined modern soul.
And if it should fail, let's try and try again.
Released in 1961 on Duke Records, 2 Steps from the Blues arrived so early in the decade that many listeners didn't yet realize how future-shaping it was. Bobby Blue Bland was already respected among Southern audiences, but mainstream R&B hadn't fully embraced his silky meets smoky delivery. That perfect blend of blues gravitas and soulish with soul elegance. While the singles gained traction, the album as a whole never claimed the level of cultural spotlight it deserved. Yet, it laid the foundation for an entire generation of soul singers. During recording sessions in Houston, Bland reportedly worked with near-military precision.
1 month from the day I first met you.
Producer Joe Scott arranged the horns with a lushness that rivaled big city orchestras, while Bland demanded emotional authenticity from every take. There's a famous anecdote. Bland insisted the brass section soften their tone on one ballad, telling them, "Pretend you're playing for somebody you're about to lose." They nailed it on the next try. Drop the needle now and you're transported to a smoky southern lounge. Dim blue lights, slow dancers swaying close, the clink of ice in glasses, and Bland's voice sliding like velvet whiskey across the room. Every track carries a lived-in ache, a quiet resilience, a tenderness that wraps around you like a late-night confession. Though it never became the chart-topping blockbuster it deserved to be, 2 Steps from the Blues became soul's secret Rosetta Stone.
The other rendezvous.
Artists from Otis Redding to modern neo-soul vocalists studied Bland's phrasing, his restraint, and his emotional control. This album showed that soul could be grand and intimate at the same time, and it stands today as one of the most influential, under-recognized classics of the entire decade. If this masterpiece hits you deep, wait till you hear what's coming next on the channel, because the journey through soul's hidden treasures never ends. From deep Memphis confessions to Motown sweetness and Southern grit, these albums remind us how rich the 60s truly were, far beyond the hits we all know. Thanks for joining us on this soul stroll. Before you go, subscribe to keep the groove alive and never miss our next journey into forgotten soul history. And for your next listen, click the end screen to explore our deep dive into the 10 underrated 70s R&B albums that deserved more attention. Trust me, it's a ride you don't want to miss.